Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Digitally Uploaded podcast. I'm Matt Sainsbury, editor-in-chief of digitallydownloaded.net, and we have a massive crew of people here this week. We have Tyler. Hello, Tyler. Long time no speak. How you been?
Hey, just been good. Me and my fellow black fellas over here. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's restart.
Welcome back, Tyler. Welcome back. Yeah. Okay. Moving on.
Hey, I'm here. Yeah, excited to be here.
we've got Trent. Hello, Trent.
Hello. I'm also here.
And Harvard.
Random joke.
Good morning.
Yeah. Let's.
I'm here. I feel like we need some context for Tyler's thing, but let's not give it any. Let's move on.
Yes. Let's move on. We've got Matt. Hello, Matt.
Hello.
And
Hello.
last but not least, we have Ginny. Hello, Ginny.
Hi.
So, yes, we've got a very big crew. Let's get kicking with it. We'll talk about a bit of the news of the week. First up, Ginny, I know you've been crazy busy with life and nonsense, but has anything interesting caught your eye this week in terms of the news?
Yeah, I suppose as of maybe about an hour ago before recording the podcast, Blizzard has announced a new Overwatch hero. And her name is Ash. And she looks really cool. And she looks like she's like a gunslinger from McCree's dark and shady past, where he was, I guess, less angsty and getting laid more or something.
What if it was his dark and kinky past?
Well, probably that. She's got like really, really sharp eyeliner. She's got like a gigantic gun, and she also summons an Omnic as her ult. So she's into some heavy firepower, probably like a power top or something. I feel like it's plausible. But no, she's the DPS hero on a serious note.
What if she was a DTF hero? I'm sorry.
She's a DPS hero, which is interesting because I feel like Overwatch has kind of balanced the meta so well recently that I don't know why they would add another DPS hero with really, really hard CC in there. We can see that from her skill, she can actually stop people mid-ult, including people like Hanzo with knockbacks. So it's like, I don't know if like a heavy disrupt DPS hero is what the meta needs right now, but she looks really cool. She's really hot, and she could definitely just like kill me with her thighs, I guess. That's oh so cool and relevant.
I always love how, like, when people are talking about first-person shooters or online games, they start throwing around terms like DPS and knockback and all that kind of stuff, and it just makes no sense to me. But anyway, that's cool. I'm still a Diva fan. Anyway, Tyler.
Yo.
News. What's been happening this week that's interested you, caught your attention?
Well, you know me. I'm one of those Smash heads. Can't get enough Smash Brothers. And they had an exciting Nintendo Direct this week. 40 minutes for about 3 minutes of content. But they did show the new character, PD Piranha. I think it's just a regular Piranha plant. But he turns into PD Piranha, the big one, whenever he does his like special attack. And it's a really dumb inclusion, and I love like just out there stupid inclusions in fighting games, like the Daytona USA car and the Fighters Mega Mix for the Saturn. I love that. I love like non-traditional fighting game characters, so I think it's great.
Yeah, it's cool. It's certainly interesting. It's going to be a good game, I think.
Well, it's ultimate. It's in the name. It's the ultimate game.
I'm still pretty pissed off that like Hatsune Miku's not one of the characters. Put stupid Piranha Plant in, but not a Hatsune Miku. It's a wasted opportunity. What about you, Matt? What's your big bit of news for the week?
Mine's on a similar note. My big bit of news is 2B coming to Soul Calibur 6 as a guest character and making one of the best fighting games I've played in a long time even better.
Yes, that's going to be great. She looks good too. She looks like she's going to be more than capable of holding her own, especially against Gerald.
Gerald? Did you call him Gerald?
I hope so.
Gerald over.
Make Gerald make that
That's his name in the new Netflix series.
Gerald.
Just good old Gerald from Geelong, you know?
Oh, he looks like
it's
Gerald.
just easier to. Well, that's the thing. He looks like Gerald, so I'm just running with it. What about you? Who haven't we got a bit of news from? Trent. Trent, what about you? What's your big bit of news of the week?
My big bit of news is going to be talking about the Game of the Year for next year. Bubsy is back.
Oh, come on. That's
No.
delusional. That is delusional.
No. It has potential to be good. It is by choice provisions. They have made great games before.
Like what?
They've done things like Bit Trip, that 3D runner thing.
Oh, how amazing. Spectacular.
Hey, Bit Trip Runner's fun.
It's an established developer, though. It's not some random developer like last time.
Okay,
And
yeah.
And it's got coming to the Switch, so that's a plus.
Oh god, I have to play it. God damn it.
Plus, it's going to be a auto runner, so you don't have to put up with bad level design this time around. So it has the potential to be good.
Cool.
You might still have to put up with bad level design. It'll just be worse.
I was going to say,
now.
did you actually just say that an auto runner doesn't have bad level design? Trent, you obviously haven't played too many of them. Some have really bad level design, I can promise you.
What's the one with the skyscrapers? That's probably the last auto runner I've ever played, and probably
Cannibals?
the first one. Yeah, that's probably the first one I've played and last one I've ever played.
I don't think it has level design. I think it's randomly generated.
Even better. No levels to critique.
What about you, Harvard? What's your bit of news of the week?
Not super exciting for probably most people because this is on every other console already. But the Sega Mega Drive collection is coming to Switch, and there's something like 59 games that are all from that system. And the one I'm most excited about is having another chance to take a crack at Phantasy Stars. They have 2, 3, and 4 on that collection, and this is back when JRPGs were like really, really hard. Like if you try to play Phantasy Stars 2 and you don't have a map or a walkthrough, it'll put hair on your chest and hair like everywhere else on you as well. It's very.
That sounds super unpleasant, but okay, continue.
Well, almost as unpleasant as actually playing Phantasy Star 2. Actually, it is a good game, but yeah, Harvard's right. You
It's
actually
very hard,
need a
yeah.
map. You do need the maps to actually, and they used to actually print the maps in the actual manual because the game was absolutely impossible otherwise because it was just so brutally difficult. But yeah, it'll be good. I'll take another crack at Phantasy Star 2 as well. I almost finished it back on the Game Boy Advance when they put that collection on the GBA way back when, but never quite got there. Maybe this time. And then my bit of news to finish up, Medieval. We saw the first proper gameplay trailer, I guess, of the game this week, and it's looking really good. I was a big fan of Medieval back in the day. I don't know if I still am, but I'm looking forward to finding out. It should be good. I remember Medieval being good fun and lighthearted nonsense and played terribly. So if it can be good fun and lighthearted nonsense and play well this time, then that's pretty much all I'm looking for, really.
I agree, Matt. Let's nut it out for a second. I watched that 4K trailer, and I just enjoyed every single second of it. Can't wait for Medieval.
Me too.
Yay!
Yay, Medieval.
We actually almost all agree on something. I'm amazed. Okay, some music. Hatsune Miku music. We'll let Tyler pick the track this week, and we'll come back and we'll talk about retro collections. And welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed Tyler's magnificent taste in Vocaloid music. Okay, so for the first section of our podcast this week, we are going to talk about retro collections because there is a lot of them that have come out either this year, coming out this year, or they're on their way soon enough. Not just in terms of the video games themselves, like Sega Classics, which Harvard mentioned before. There's also SNK, the SNK collection that's coming up. Capcom's released a whole bunch this year. The Street Fighter one earlier in the year, and then the Beat 'em Up one later on, fairly recently now. On top of that, there's a whole bunch of mini consoles that have come out this year and have now occupied everybody's space under their TV with little bits of junk. The NES one was last year, wasn't it? The Super NES one was this year, I think, earlier, wasn't it? PlayStation's got one coming up this year. Atari's done one, and so on and so forth. There's a Commodore 64 one too, which is apparently pretty decent. So yeah, there's a lot of them. I guess a good place to start would be to talk about how I'm sick of bits of plastic occupying space under my TV. It'd be nice if they also released these packages as, downloadable software for existing consoles.
Next to your TV?
Why do I have what now?
Why do you have vibrators next to your TV?
Why would I have what are you talking about?
That's where his mind went when you said this is plastic.
Why would you use plastic ones?
It's like the only thing that's plastic that's important to him.
Okay, Tyler. I don't know what to do with that, Tyler.
It's just like a throwaway joke. I've gotten too much spotlight.
Moving on. I don't know. It'd be nice. It'd be nice if they released these things as software options. Like, for instance, the Super NES Mini. If they released a Super NES Mini app thing for the Switch, so you could play all those games on the Switch rather than having to buy another console. I think it's a little bit cynical from the manufacturers to make these things knowing that people are going to buy them, even though they're not actually that good a value, really. And the PlayStation one doesn't look like it's great value either. It's 20 games on it, but
I can't get over them. It's such a bad game.
Which one?
Again?
Rainbow Six.
Rainbow Six.
Oh, it's terrible. Especially the PlayStation one. Like, it is a terrible, terrible game.
Yeah, and you're playing it with the face buttons. Like, remember when kids were like that? My God.
Yep, absolutely. I remember trying to play that back in the day because people were like, "Oh yeah, this is good. This is Tom Clancy and something, something, something." I was like, "What the hell are you talking about?"
This is good. This is Tom Clancy.
Wait, actually,
I had
on the PS1. So the classic, did they have dual sticks on the PS1 at some point, or did I just have my message?
They introduced it around Ape Escape.
Okay,
it was about halfway through. The original PlayStation didn't, but then about halfway through they did.
And the classic PlayStation have dual sticks.
Classic doesn't.
Right?
No.
Why would
really?
Do that? I swear that's what it was. Like I saw the controller and there was no dual sticks.
Yeah, there's no dual sticks.
No.
Wow.
That's why they couldn't put Ape Escape on there. Not that they would have anyway, because they make bad decisions about what games to put on there. But
yeah, I didn't even realize that. Okay. Wow. They put Final Fantasy VII on there, which was good, but they didn't put Final Fantasy VIII on, which is not. They should have put Final Fantasy VIII on there.
But
apparently didn't.
It's been lost to time.
Yeah, didn't Square Enix actually lose the code for that? That's the problem. That's why we're not seeing any remakes or re-releases of Final Fantasy VIII. They've lost it.
They didn't lose it. They intentionally deleted it because that was just what Square Enix did at that time. Was make the game and then delete everything they used to make it.
That's just terrible.
Even the original PC version that came out like a year or two after the PlayStation one was like they had to reverse engineer it from the released PlayStation version and try to make it that way, and that's why it's so full of bugs.
That's hilarious. That's really bad. They also have two different versions of the PlayStation because the Western version and the Japanese versions are different, and the Japanese have got the much better version.
Oh man, there's no comparison. For some reason, the Western version was like, let's give them GTA, the original GTA that no one wanted,
and is free. It's actually free. You can get the original GTA on Steam for nothing, $0.
Yeah, like Rockstar even values it at $0. Why? Why is so many people want that?
No, it's a system seller. Though people are complaining, people want the London expansion pack, the DLC. They said if that was included, that would be great. That's what people are saying on the internet.
Wait, what? There was DLC for that game?
Oh,
I don't think it was.
Number two. Number 2 was in London.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and instead the Japanese got the Ark of the Lad games. At least 2 of them, 3 of them. Was it 3?
2 of them, but they also got Armored Core. They got
Armored Core.
Like all these good games, and we got just regular what people were cool at the time. So it was very.
We got regular games, but we didn't even get Tomb Raider. Like they haven't even put Tomb Raider on there. And Tomb Raider was iconic to the PlayStation. Well, that's the thing I was talking about earlier. It's quite cynical because they've put games on there that have very little value to them, but they know they'll sell copies. Whereas all the stuff that is of value to them, they've held off. So, I mean, the reason they probably didn't put Tomb Raider on there is because they'd much rather people buy the new Tomb Raider games as such.
Doesn't Microsoft have some kind of deal with them?
No, I don't think so.
Not anymore.
Oh.
Yeah, I think it was only for like time exclusivity anyway. It's been like they're all on everything now anyway, aren't they?
Yeah.
I thought the new one, the Shadow or the Rise or whatever it's called, but yeah, maybe I'm wrong.
The previous one, the second one was a timed exclusive for Microsoft, but
plus, like, I don't think it would like really affect their sales because like Tomb Raider, while there is a lot of nostalgic value, which is why I think it should be included in a list like that, those games have held up terribly. Those games are awful. So like people are like playing for 5 minutes. Like that's what they kind of do with these systems anyhow. They play something for 5 minutes and realize, oh, that's kind of shit, and then they move on.
Yeah, look, that's been my problem this entire year. So when the SNES came out, which actually came out last year, I swear it came out last year, but I've not completed a single game because I just play one for 15 minutes and I'm like, oh, cool, let's go do something else.
I literally haven't even opened the SNES one or the NES one. I haven't opened them.
Expensive collector's items. Try and hold on to them. They're an investment now.
I mean, the SNES one I did play through Final Fantasy 6 or 3 as they called it on that one. I did play through that just because it actually does hold up. But every other game, I haven't bothered playing through. I haven't even played the Star Fox 2, which was the big bonus on there because that was never released before. So they put it on there for the first time, but I just can't be bothered. No interest to me. Mario Kart's on there though. That's pretty good.
The Star Fox thing though is still a little bit of fun. Like it's like, hey, this game like never came out, and then it's like on like some retro console. Like it gives it a little bit of value. Like Sony didn't do that with their console. There's no here's like some little Easter egg thing, like something lost from the past. It's just
they did. They put Final Fantasy 7 on it. Nobody's played that.
Yeah.
So, talking about other collections, or talking about software collections, because obviously there's a few of those. Like I said at the start, the SNK one, for instance, is coming out soon. I don't know if I can actually talk about it without breaking embargo, but kind of screw it. It's
just give us facial gestures and say what you feel about it.
I'm not amused by it. Let's put it that way. Well, no, I think they've done a good job emulating them, and it's a complete package. There's a nice museum feature in there and all that kind of stuff. And you can actually play the original arcade version or the original console version because some of those games were arcade ports and whatever. You can even watch a playthrough of those games. So if you're finding the arcade version of the game hard,
those games probably suck to play.
Yeah, if you're finding it too hard to play but are interested in seeing the whole thing, you can actually watch a full, complete playthrough of them. That's a nice feature. I like the way that they've put the package together. But then
that's kind of genius. I feel like new developers should do that for their games. Like hire PewDiePie to record an exclusive play for your new video game, and then people pay $60 for it, And instead of like actually playing the game themselves, they just watch PewDiePie's video.
They
Like,
don't need
we
to
can
pay
monetize
YouTubers to
YouTube in a
do
more
it.
direct way. I think this is genius.
Like
Future
YouTubers
content.
do it anyway.
But yeah, those features aside, the good games are kind of behind DLC. Like there's a lot of DLC that's been added to that game, and yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the roster of games that are actually on it off the package. So yeah, it's a bit of a disappointment for me. But I did enjoy the Capcom one, which was only a couple of weeks ago. The beat 'em up collection, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
I know you
Knights of the
reviewed that,
Round.
didn't it? It was good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's a good package. Yeah.
A good package.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
it's
he's got.
mentioning that the SNK one, that as far as I know, the DLC is all going to be free.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
the
that's
first
nice.
6 games are free at least. They announced that.
Yeah.
But are they?
Oh, well, that's
are they-
a
The
nice thing.
second pack lot is free as well. Free packages everywhere.
But they won't add any of the Neo Geo games, right? Because they're all
No.
coming to Switch anyway.
No,
Yeah.
these are pre-Neo Geo. These are earlier.
I'm glad that we're getting some free packages because, you know, there's been so much attention on like free the nipple, but I'm like, free the package.
I'm sorry, I just lost the
You've
plot
just-
for like
You've
5
just killed
seconds.
Ginny there, Tyler. You've killed Ginny.
Are you going to be the first one to free the package, Tyler?
Yeah, that's gonna be the hashtag.
Take one for the achievement.
Free the package.
I'll just
Okay,
insert
on that.
hashtag for like lame things, like puns. Like I'll have like a package arrive from like Amazon and just have like a picture of it saying "free the package," and then it'll be like me unboxing it, and then I'll be like "free the package."
And then you'll take your pants off? Well, I don't know. What is free the package?
We might have to retitle this DDNet Late Night Edition.
That happens every time Tyler and I are on the same podcast.
It really does. It's like a red flag on when people see who's on the podcast. If they see Ginny and Tyler on the podcast, they know
They're like, oh no.
not
Hi to
let-
kids.
not to let the kids listen to this one. Okay, we're going to go to some music, and it's going to be G-rated music. And we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about Ghost of Tsushima. And welcome back, everybody. Okay, let's talk about Ghost of Tsushima. We've mentioned it a couple of times, I guess, in the podcast in the past, but we haven't really had a proper discussion about it. And I think there's been enough interviews and bits of information that have come out about the game that we can have a conversation about it at this point. This is obviously one of Sony's big ones coming up for, we assume it'll be released next year, And yeah, I'll start by getting Ginny's thoughts about it. Ginny, based on what you've seen of Ghost of Tsushima so far, are you keen?
Based on what I've seen, it looks really cool. Based on what I've read and I guess looked at on the internet, I am unsure. I mean, I knew it wasn't going to be like a historical epic. I mean, there's like gigantic castle-sized enemies, so I wasn't like looking for like, you know, historical accuracy or anything in the game. But it does kind of feel like the Japanese setting is just window dressing. Like, I mean, it's set during a particular time, right? All the trailers and premise were like, oh, cool, like, you know, people from Mongolia are now just like wrecking shit in Japan. And I'm like, okay, interesting time for you to put it in because there's so much natural history and conflict there. But it looks like for everything that I've seen, you don't actually encounter any of that. You really, really don't. And I just feel like from the interviews that have been done so far with the people behind the game, they've just kind of decided to use that history part as window dressing and not really deal with it at all. So from that perspective, it's a little bit disappointing. I mean, it looks great. Like, I'm not going to lie, it looks amazing. And I'm still probably going to want to play it. But I feel like the discussion around the imagery in the game and the aesthetic from the people that direct the game creatively is kind of cringe and a little bit disrespectful. That's my opinion, anyway.
Kind of cringe is understating it, I think. Yeah, it's an interesting one because I don't know whether they realized it or not when they decided to start making the game, but the Mongolian invasion of Japan in the 13th century was a pretty critical part of Japanese history and very it became a big part of, I guess, the Japanese samurai culture and the Japanese culture itself as it developed over the next couple of 100 years. It's one of those really critical moments in history, and it needed to be handled. If you're going to tackle that subject in a game, you need to handle it with a certain degree of respect for it, and I don't get the sense that they are from the interviews. Like you said, it seems like it's kind of window dressing. They've actually picked the least important conflict in the entire war as the setting for their game. I assume they chose Tsushima as the setting because it was a neat, easy way to do an open world, because it's kind of an island, so it's, you know, a set size and they can create the whole island within their open world structure. But yeah, it's by doing that, it's you got to ask whether they're going to be able to engage with the topic of the Mongolian invasion at all, because that battle was the first battle of the invasion, and
everyone died, right? That was the whole.
Everyone died.
Everyone died. So I don't know what's going to happen. I guess the end of the game. Are we just gonna keel over?
Not only did
die, I guess, to the Korean forces. Good stuff. Great. 60 hours for nothing. Like, you know,
that'd be kind of an awesome game, actually. Like, that would be like a really ballsy ending to like make you go slog through this entire war, and it looks like you're gonna make a difference, and then everybody just dies. Like, that'd be amazing. I mean, it's not gonna happen, but I would love that. I would love a developer to actually go for it in that kind of way.
Or you could just randomly kill NPSCs, like,
because it reminds me of when I played Detroit Become Human, because the way I was playing, I was trying to go a peaceful route, and I thought it was going to make a statement like, oh, you have to, you know, like, fight against oppression. You can't just, you know, like, try to hug it out with, like, you know, dozens of years of abuse, and like, you actually have to make a stand. But no, they just, like, Hillary Clinton was like so moved by androids kissing that like she pardoned everybody. But I thought they were going to kill us. And make a real point, but they didn't.
Yeah, I mean, that would be interesting.
A similar ending to Spider-Man, actually.
Spider-Man.
I was hoping that at the end Spider-Man would die, but he didn't.
Yes, and then it became like the other guy, Miles.
Yeah, that's. I'm not even joking. That was what I thought / hoped was going to happen. Was that?
Yeah, because it was setting it up. It was like so perfect. It was like, did it happen?
See, Matt, I was kind of hoping Spider-Man would die in the first chapter, and then that would be the that would be the end of the game.
It becomes a game about you being a citizen of New York, walking around wondering where Spider-Man went, getting mugged.
No. There was just nothing after that. It was the end. It was like a nihilistic game in which like the tutorial finishes, Spider-Man dies, and then it's like, this is actually the whole game. That would be very that would be a statement. I would have liked that. And then I would have saved 60 hours of my time chasing icons around the fucking map.
And that which brings us back onto the topic of Ghost of Tsushima, which, aside from everything else, it looks like it's going to be another icon chasing game.
Oh, it's definitely going to be an icon chaser, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, how samurai is that, having to chase little icons around or do base captures. And
Now, Matt, you know
nonsense like
more about this than me, but I heard they didn't chase icons back in the day. I heard like samurais used to chase like little children. Is that true about like them being pedophiles?
Well, they were kind of like shitty policemen. Like they weren't like really like it wasn't like a glamorous job. You weren't like lining up to be a samurai. So
well, samurai were effectively a exact copy over of what the knights were in Europe. They were the kind of the minor nobility as such. So they had land, they had property, they had people who paid them taxes in the form of rice. That was how taxes were measured. I'm not joking. That's how it was.
I know, it's not really funny for some reason.
And you know the wealth of the lord was basically determined by how much rice their area produced. So yeah, they were just basically minor lords, and they were expected to be the ones that did the fighting if the fighting needed to happen. And yeah, that's basically it. They weren't this kind of mystical, magical warrior person thing that a lot of Western people seem to think they are. And that's I guess my big concern with this one. It's like they're probably going to completely misunderstand what the samurai were and what they did and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I don't see that working.
But at least they're making the first ever samurai game, because there's never been one made before.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
the most hilarious thing. That was the most hilarious thing. That interview that went up this week, like as we record this podcast, there was an interview that went up on Game Industry that went up a couple of days ago, and in it the guy's like, yeah, this is an underused setting. We haven't seen many samurai games before, and I'm like, okay, so the dozen odd samurai games I play that come out of Japan every year obviously don't exist because white people didn't make them. And yeah, it's odd. The thing is, I guess a lot of people are like, well, we don't try, or especially the developers as well. They're like, well, we're not trying to be realistic, so on and so forth. And that's fine. I would say that Koei Tecmo probably doesn't try to be realistic with its Samurai Warriors games either. But you can be authentic without being realistic, and I don't see that. It's the lack of authenticity in this one that's concerning me. All I see is this very romanticized vision of what Japan and the samurai and all that kind of stuff is, and I don't want to play The Last Samurai, the movie. I just don't want like Tom Cruise's samurai film game.
That'd be really good though, because like he's so short. So you'd have this really tiny protagonist. Like that would be like pretty neat.
It probably worked into some joke about how everyone in Japan is also short, so it's not that big of a deal.
Oh, they actually were back then. They were very short.
I'm not being racist. I'm just saying statistically.
No, historically they were tiny back then. They were tiny people.
Yeah, have they revealed who the voice cast for this game is?
No, not that I know.
Troy Baker.
I know.
Troy
I'm
Baker.
guessing, but probably.
Probably Matt Mercer or some shit.
I know that they actually said that you can play the game in Japanese, and they tried to make a big feature of that. Like, not many other games you can play the voice acting in Japanese, unlike every Japanese game that's made. But yeah, it seems to be that they're particularly proud of the fact that you can actually play the game in Japanese if you want. So yeah.
Do these developers even play Japanese games?
I genuinely say this. I don't think they do. That's the thing. They seem to be very unaware of, beyond a vague impression that Japanese people make Japanese games. They don't seem to be aware of just how much stuff is out there by Koei and Square Enix and whatever, especially Koei. But what about you, Matt? Are you looking forward to Ghost of Tsushima overall?
Not really.
Okay. What about you, Tyler? Are you looking forward to Ghost of Tsushima?
No, I mean, I typically like Sucker Punch is typically okay. I'm sure it'll be like a fine game, but nothing really has interested me any. Like, there's nothing standing out. It looks pretty though, but like, there's 5 million pretty games now. Like, that doesn't differentiate enough for me.
It's a very like photorealistic pretty that is pretty until another more realistic looking game comes
Yeah,
out,
for sure.
and then it's like okay.
Plus, it doesn't like the lazy bastards at Sucker Punch. They didn't model any horse testicles for this game.
Yeah.
So how can I even play this after Red Dead? What's the point?
Yeah.
Maybe it
It's
should
true.
deliver a package. But I was trying to do it.
Free the package.
Yeah, free the package.
Free the horse
the package.
testicles.
Yeah. That, I guess that's the thing. The other thing, Sony is going to have to somehow beat Red Dead with it, because, as we all know, in the blockbuster space, it's only the top game that seems to matter. So whatever that game is at that point in
whatever
time.
came out that week.
All Sony has to do is market it by saying like, "Hey, we didn't make this game by forcing people to work 100-hour weeks," and then they'll work for a while until something comes out a few weeks later that shows that actually they did.
Yeah, I imagine Sucker Punch probably do work 100-hour weeks, to be honest.
Yeah.
Plus, if
It's
they
one
said
of those-
that you work 100 hours a week, then you'd be like, oh, well, lazy developers, blah, blah, blah. They did do their research, and that's why it's not authentically Japanese or something. I don't know. Like,
Speaking of research, that's the other issue I have with this thing. It's in a couple of interviews now. They keep saying that they are working with experts to make this game and stuff. And I'm like, well, which experts? They're very cagey about actually saying who they're working with, or who they've got their information from, where their research has come from. And I don't know. It seems sketchy to me.
I mean, I don't want
I
to break
sus-
news on the podcast, but it's actually me. I'm the expert.
Oh, you're the expert, are you, Tyler? Oh, that's good
Yeah.
to you.
That makes it fine. I am now looking for.
I just glean pieces of
Yeah, that's
information
it.
about Japan from your reviews, and then I give them like secondhand summaries that aren't as detailed.
Yeah,
we're
see,
pretty
that's
happy
all.
with
That's
it so
all I
far.
need to know. I'm happy with that. Now I'm very much looking forward to Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah.
They should call it Ghost of Tsushima by Thai Trees.
okay, Matt explained what the war was earlier in the podcast. Tyler, what is the game about? Go.
Well, it's about discovering yourself as a samurai and embracing the inner ordeal, the inner ordeal of living life on an island and being Japanese and embracing the culture and freeing the package.
You just change the name to Sucker Package Productions.
It's like a package product.
On that note, we're going to music. Welcome back, everybody. For the final section of the podcast, we are going to talk about rhythm games because there's been a few of them released, and it's been a pretty good couple of years overall for rhythm games, especially if you own a Nintendo Switch. This week has brought us the Taiko the Drum games on the Switch and PlayStation 4. Those are different games, so you can get both versions and be very happy. And it's the first time that those games have been released in English for quite a while, and that's a good thing. And we'll start by talking with Jenny. You've been playing the Switch one for review for DDNet. What are your thoughts about Taiko the Drum?
Taiko the Drum is a little shit. Like the drum character. He's a little shit. But Taiko the game.
the character's not called Taiko. The character.
No, I know, but like the different like you know the katsu drum and the curry drum and all the other drums are little shits. But
What? That's so happy. How can you not like
What
them?
about Taiko, the Panic Arcade guy?
I think
Anyway.
our comment still applies.
So, Taiko is probably one of my favorite arcade games ever. I know Matt, Cod, also living in New Zealand like me, we don't have a huge range of arcades. And there was like this one shitty arcade in my city, which is not Matt's city. Matt's city is way cooler. One shitty arcade in my city that was like a Chinese run arcade. It had like all the shittiest games in it, but it had two that really stood out. So it had like a Tekken set and a Taiko set. And
What?
I
We
know,
don't have
crazy.
we don't have any arcades in Wellington.
Oh, okay. Well, sorry,
They
my
have
city's
Taiko
cooler.
sets, or I don't think they have any arcades at all anymore.
But yeah, it had a Taiko set and it was dope. It was all the text was in Chinese. So if you were white, you were shit out of luck. So all my friends would bring me along as the token Chinese person to actually read the text on the machine and help them play it. And yeah, so I love rhythm games. Everyone that's listened to me talk about anything on this podcast will know that by now. I love Voaz. I love pretty much every rhythm game on the Switch. I love Bang Dream, and I play Love Live. It's like a character fault of mine, the amount of Love Live that I play. So the fact that I can actually play Taiko now, I guess on the go essentially, it is great, and I love it. It does not have the full arcade range of songs. Obviously, the song library is not as gigantic. There are still different categories like pop, Japanese music, classical music. The selection is a lot smaller than the arcade version. So if you're like a solely arcade player, like I was with Taiko, that will be a big adjustment for you to make. But you do unlock songs as you play. So I've unlocked maybe about 10-ish songs so far from getting different achievements in the game. You don't really know when you'll get these songs. They just kind of happen. Like from playing the game, I'll use different characters to actually, I guess, be the drummer. So, I mean, it happens organically, and it's fun. The music is great. The aesthetic is great. In case you don't know what Taiko is, it's not an OSU mod. I know that's how a lot of people figure out what Taiko the Drum is, but it's basically a game where you simulate drumming. So with the Joy-Con controls, you're basically beating on an imaginary drum.
How would you
in front of
compare
you.
it to the greatest drumming game?
What's the
Donkey
greatest?
Kong Donkey Kong Tonga.
Jungle Beat.
Well, there's K-pop music in Taiko the Drum, so Taiko the Drum wins, I guess.
If you had to compare it to a banana, what would you call it, Jenny?
This would be like a top banana of games, yeah. It'd be like up there, you know what I mean? I think that the aesthetic is really fun and cute. The art style is amazing, and it
Character
works.
design by Yoko Taro's wife, Yokiko
Oh
Taro.
yeah, that's right. That's a good one.
Yoko.
Yeah. the
Anyway,
character
yeah.
design is great.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's great. I agree. I played the PlayStation 4 version, slightly different songs, like I said before. It's really good. It's got PPMP on it, which is great. I know everybody hates that song, but I like that song.
Yeah.
Are there any Miku songs in it?
What?
There are Miku songs on it. There are,
There's
you can unlock-
Vocaloid music.
and you can unlock Hatsune Miku costumes for the drum, which is cool. It's really cool.
I
It's
think
so
the biggest
cool, Tyler.
question is: should you get the drum packet, which comes with physical drums, or should
Well,
you
I don't
just
have the
stick to
drum packet,
console?
unfortunately. I've been playing it actually mostly in handheld mode. I tried it with a Joy-Con, and it's fine. Like, it's playable. But I feel like it works just as well handheld, which I was really, really surprised by because obviously, like, visually, your Switch, when you've got the Joy-Cons in it, does not look anything like a drum or the regular Taiko drum set. But it works. Controls are pretty much seamless, even in handheld.
I think that's the best thing about the game that I really like is just how many different control options they have. For rhythm games, I think it's important that rhythm games let you play kind of how you want. And with Taiko the Drum, you can get the drum accessory, you can play with motion controls, you can play with buttons, and I think on the Switch it's touchscreen option as well. I vaguely remember there might. I think there's a touchscreen option as well. Obviously, touchscreen option's not there with the PlayStation 4. You can't go up to your TV and start tapping it. But yeah, the options are great, which is, I think that's important with rhythm games. And to segue a little bit into Pianista, which is the other rhythm game that was recently released, which is a great game on the Switch. It's about playing classical music, and it's it's got about 40 odd different classical tracks, and it simulates, I guess, the experience of playing the piano. You can only play that one with buttons, which is on the Switch, which is odd because on the mobile version it's obviously touchscreen, and it just feels like it should be a touchscreen game, but they've turned touchscreen off, and that annoys me. I think rhythm games need lots of different options. What about you, Matt? You played all of these rhythm games recently. What are your thoughts about how rhythm games are going at the moment, and some of these ones, and touchscreens and stuff?
Rhythm games are good. I like them. I agree with you on Pianista. I think it's also worth mentioning that it's not like they haven't just lifted it off the mobile version and stuck it on Switch without, and then like put buttons in there. They've kind of tried to adapt it to the Switch into button controls.
Oh, okay.
But
I didn't know that. Yep.
There are. If you play the mobile version, there are a lot of things that just wouldn't be possible with with button controls, like those kind of notes where you have to hold them, but then they slide up and down from side to side of the screen.
Ah, right.
That kind of stuff. So they have sort of done their best to adapt it to buttons, and I think it mostly works, but it's still, having a touchscreen option would be better and would help a lot, especially on the trickier songs where when you have to press lots of buttons quickly in sequence, when you're only using your thumbs, it gets tricky. So I can't imagine how anyone would actually be able to play the hardest songs without doing like the old Tekken claw type of holding the controller but on both sides, so that you can have a finger on each button instead of moving your thumb between them.
Yeah.
But aside from that, it's a really good game, and Taiko is very good as well.
It is. Yes. What about you, Harvard? I know you're quite a fan of rhythm games. What do you look for in a rhythm game? What makes a good one for you?
So this is gonna be a controversial opinion, but a good rhythm game needs a
Doesn't
very
exist,
dumb...
is what Harvard was gonna say.
It needs a very dumb peripheral. So like the giant drum in Taiko, or like the dance pads in DDR, or like my favorite, the 16 square buttons on Jubeat.
Yes, hell yeah.
Like you go to an arcade and you go to see the machine, and he's like, I don't know how anyone would practically play that. That's how you know it's gonna be a good rhythm game.
There was a rhythm game. There was a rhythm game I played which is older in Japan. It was an old arcade that I went into. I think it was developed by Konami, and it's actually a keyboard, a full piano keyboard.
Sounds like hard mode. Would not.
It's a bit like Pianista, I guess, but it was more J-pop music and stuff. And you were just playing along, and the keys would light up, and you'd have to hit the right key in the right time, and all that kind of stuff. That was pretty good. I like that.
Did you ever play?
Peripherals are good. Peripherals are definitely good.
Did you ever play My?
No, I haven't.
Has anyone not seen it? It's like this giant wheel panel that you need to slide your whole body across. It's just.
That sounds good.
I described that very badly.
Yeah.
I do like games where I slide my whole body across.
Yeah.
I just mean like you move your arm from one side of the panel to the other, but it's very like cardio.
Yeah.
Also, hey Matt, how's Gal Metal?
Gal Metal's
I
good.
haven't played Gun Metal. Oh, that Matt, other Matt. You have to
Sorry.
qualify which Matt Hubbard.
I just assume you guys will know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so when Matt said the other rhythm game, he forgot one because there's also Gal Metal, which for some reason released on the same day as Taiko the Drum. But
Excellent decision.
both are very good games. It's very different to most rhythm games in that usually you have a beat map and the game tells you press these buttons at this time and you try to do it and then you fail and you cry a little bit and then you try again and you keep doing that until you succeed. Gal Metal doesn't really have that. It's more just about freestyle kind of. You just drum and there's a really complicated scoring system based on like you have to be in time to the music still. If you just don't, then you won't get a very good score. But it's mostly up to you about choosing what kind of rhythms you do, and it works surprisingly well in terms of how do I describe it? Like basically real drumming in an odd way where you're not really just given a sheet of music and say play that. It's more about.
So I guess my question goes out to the good Matt.
Which one's
What's
that?
your favorite rhythm game of all time?
Who's the good Matt?
Clearly, Matt.
Whoever answers, apparently. I was going to let you fight over it.
It's the Senran Kagura cooking game. Actually, that's the best rhythm game of all time.
Hey, that game's
So Jenny
legitimately
winds
good.
up being the good Matt.
Yeah, I'm the
Makes a
good
lot of
man.
sense.
That is a good rhythm game, that.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a rhythm
Exactly.
game?
Kagura one.
Thought that game existed.
Kind of, you
For
cook to a rhythm, yeah.
For the record, the best rhythm game is Elite Beat Agents. Thank you.
No,
That is a good one.
It's alright, yeah.
it's got like 0 anime elements, so that's objectively.
Well, let
good.
me tell you about Owendon, the Japanese version of the game, which is also tied for best rhythm game because you've got two competing male cheerleading squads and many anime elements in it.
Yeah, but then I mean, there's
and that's what Osu is based on. So you know,
It is. I agree with Tyler on that. It is up there. But the best one is, of course, Hatsune Miku, Project Eva, Future Time. It
You're
is
only
by far
saying
the
that
best.
because of the Twin Tails.
Well,
Yeah,
that
she has,
does
like,
factor in.
Yeah, that's fair. That's the leading criteria in reviewing a game.
But on top of that, it is the best rhythm game ever made. I mean, that one has 200 odd songs on it, and it's challenging, and I still haven't finished with it, and I've put like 800 hours into that game by
I
itself.
never thought I'd see you praising a game purely based on content. This is the best game. It has 200 songs.
Well, no, it has because it has 200 songs.
You're gonna say you love Red Dead because it took you 6,000 hours to play the story. See, a weaker version of a story you could.
I love that I set off this Matt on Matt crime going on here.
Oh, gee.
You'd be lying to say that the track list didn't count for a rhythm game, Matt. So
That's true. I think Voaz has a really great and varied track list, like of different genres, and that's what kind of makes it so.
yeah,
cool.
it's the variety.
then-
It's not the fact that it's got content for the sake of content. It's the fact that they use that track list to really build out a range of different musical experiences to enjoy. Voaz is another good example. Demo's another good example as well. Also available on Switch.
Let's think about the variety in Twin Tails you can select from.
I guess
What?
Voaz has a lot of anime art with Twin Tails in it, so that's not wrong.
Yeah, but Voaz needed more animation. Like once you actually play in the game, all it is little
it's
bars
just
on the
like
screen and stuff.
Yeah.
And then you got to go into like the story mode and unlock stuff to get the good pictures, which is that's too much like work. At least with the Miku games, all the Twin Tails is right there on the screen, right in front of you, the whole time you're playing. Which is it makes it hard to get it perfect. I get distracted a lot of the time while I'm playing. I start watching the video clip instead. But
Of course
you know.
do. one word of advice I would give to anyone playing either Taiko or Gal Metal on Switch is make sure you have the rumble feature turned on. For the first few hours of both of those games, I forgot that I had turned off rumble at a system level because of some game that I can't remember what it was that just really abused rumble to the point that playing it made my hands hurt, and there was no way to turn it off.
Reflections.
Huh?
Right? Was it Senran Kagura Reflections?
No, I've never played that, and I've no plans to. But this wasn't like this was just basically playing while you're playing the game. Just the controller just shake the whole time, and it was like made my hands all itchy. So I turned it off at the system level and have never thought about it since until now when I was playing these games for a few hours each and trying motion controls and like this, why is this not working? How did it release in this state? Why would you make something that just where the motion controls just don't even come close to even resembling a finished product? And then something somebody on Twitter said made me realize that, wait a minute, I'm not getting any like rumble feedback. And then I remembered that I turned it off, and once I turned it back on, then everything was fine, and motion controls became the best way to play both those games. And that's my story. So motion controls, rhythm, rumble on always.
No, I like the Switch especially because it rumbles in different ways. So like when you dong and when you cart, it's like it feels distinct to each other.
You feel the individual ice cubes.
You feel.
And on that note, we're going to wrap up for the week. We'll pick some music from Taiko the Drum. What's your favorite song from Taiko the Drum, Ginny?
Favorite song. I guess we could use the Japanese cover of this K-pop song, which is nice.
Okay, we'll do that. So yeah, that'll be what you're listening to finish off. Thanks very much for tuning in, everybody, and thanks everybody for being on the podcast this week. And we will catch you all next week. Thanks very much.